Breaking news. Ukraine outproduces Putin with cheaper 155 millimeter shells.
You heard that right.
While the world has been watching the trench lines, the real story has shifted to the factory floor.
It absolutely has.
It is Monday, February 2026, and the rules of industrial warfare are being rewritten right before our eyes.
It's a massive shift. We're seeing confirmed reports that while Russia is betting everything en masse on sheer volume, Ukraine has cracked the code on what analysts are calling strategic cost asymmetry.
Strategic cost asymmetry.
You're producing NATO's standard lethality at a fraction of the price.
And that price difference is staggering. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of how they're pulling this off, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these updates. If you support Ukraine and want the truth about what's happening, you need to subscribe. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
Absolutely. The landscape is changing so fast, and you'll want to stay ahead of it.
So I'm Alex. Join me with Arya in the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments.
And today, today we're going to cover the hidden war. It's not just about steel shells.
No, it is not. It's about supply chains that stretch from underground bunkers in Ukraine to cotton fields in Central Asia.
We're going to talk about Killer Cotton, a British Uzbek tycoon who is fueling Russian missiles, and how Ukrainian engineers are literally outsmarting mass production with digital improvisation.
We've got digital sorcery, we've got underground factories hiding from glide bombs, and a supply chain scandal that actually involves NATO members. It sounds like a movie script.
But it's the reality of 2026. I mean, we are in the fourth year of this war, and the conflict has fundamentally shifted.
It's not just about territory anymore.
No, it is a battle of industrial endurance, of supply chain chemistry. It's David versus Goliath, but in this version, David has built a highly efficient factory inside a cave.
Okay, let's start with the economics of this David versus Goliath dynamic. Because when I was reading through the new reports, one number just jumped off the page. The cost of a single 155 millimeter artillery shell.
Right, and the 155 millimeter is the king of the battlefield. We have to remember, in this conflict, artillery is responsible for what, roughly 80% of all casualties?
80%, exactly. Now, if you look at the standard NATO shells from Western Europe, France, Norway, places with high labor costs, very strict regulations.
Right.
Those shells are costing up to 8,000 euros per unit. 8,000 euros for one shot.
That is the price of high-precision Western manufacturing in a scarcity market. When demand spikes and supply is rigid, prices just explode.
But then you look at Ukraine's domestic production numbers. They're churning out their version of the M107 shell for 2,500 euro.
Less than a third of the price.
That's unbelievable.
And that is the definition of strategic cost asymmetry. I mean, just think about the math there. If you're paying 3 times less for your ammo, you can fire 3 times more for the same budget.
Or you can just last longer.
Or you can sustain the conflict 3 times longer than your donor nations ever expected. It changes the entire sustainability calculation.
But it's not just about being cheap, right? Because the sources mention this huge debate inside the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. They called it the sniper versus machine gun debate.
Yes, and this is a fascinating strategic dilemma. There was a strong push from some officials to focus purely on, these long-range, high-precision sniper rounds.
The smart shells?
The smart shells.
Yeah.
The thinking was, we have drones, we have guided missiles, let's be precise, why are we making dumb shells? But the reality of the front line, especially in places like Pokrovsk, showed why that logic fails.
Because drones don't always work.
Exactly. Weather is a huge factor. Fog rolls in, or the Russians ramp up their electronic warfare and they jam the signals. When the drones are grounded and you have a Russian meat assault,
wave after wave of infinite.
Wave after wave coming at you. You don't need a sniper. You need a machine gun. You need volume. You need those basic cheap shells to suppress the enemy grid square by grid square.
So the cheap shell is the insurance policy for when the high-tech stuff goes down. But looking at the specs, they didn't just stick with the old stuff, did they? I saw something about the L-15 shell.
That's right. The L-15 is a massive upgrade. It's a high-explosive fragmentation shell produced locally. Now, the old M107 was fine, but the L-15 is packed with about 10.5 kilograms of TNT.
Wait, double the explosive payload.
Double. That's a significant difference in blast radius, in lethality.
It's huge.
It's huge. Ballistically, it is now equivalent to the U.S. Army's standard M795 shell, which is a very effective, modern piece of hardware. and they've paired it with these red bag charges.
The M119 propellant, what does that do differently?
It just generates higher chamber pressure, which lets them fire these things over 20 kilometers. So they're getting NATO-level lethality and range, but they're doing it at that 2,500 price point.
They're not just making cheap shells, they're making efficient ones.
Precisely.
That is impressive. But here's where it gets really complicated for the crews on the ground. The shells are one thing, but what about the guns firing them? The situation sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It is an interoperability nightmare, as one report called it. You have to realize Ukraine is operating something like 17 different types of 155 millimeter howitzers.
17.
French Caesars, American M777s, Polish Crabs, German PZH 2000s, I mean, the list goes on. And nearly 50 different models of shells from all over the world.
And for anyone who doesn't know, you can't just shove any shell into any gun and expect it to hit the target.
You can physically load it, usually. It fits. But just because it fits doesn't mean it flies straight. A US shell fired from a French gun has different ballistics, different spin. You need complex firing tables, literal books of data to calculate where that shot will land.
And waiting for the US Army to generate tables for every weird combination they have.
It would take months. And in this war, you don't have months. You have minutes.
So they didn't wait, they improvised. This brings us to Krapiva.
Krapiva is the digital sorcery we teased earlier. It's an amazing system. Instead of waiting for official tables, a Ukrainian unit can fire just 2 or 3 test shots with whatever combo of gun and ammo they have.
Okay.
Krapiva analyzes the impact points using drone data, and it instantly generates a predictive firing table for that specific setup, on the spot.
That's incredible. It's basically AI-assisted calibration on the fly.
It is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's digital improvisation beating bureaucratic rigidity. And it's not the only digital breakthrough. We have to talk about DOT chain.
Right, the supply chain system.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
getting the ammo to the gun is just as hard as firing it.
Logistics wins wars. DOT chain arsenal has digitized the supply lines. They move from mountains of paper contracts and approval forms to real-time digital tracking.
Of everything.
UAVs, ammo, fuel, the efficiency gains are staggering. And because of systems like this, the Ministry of Defense reported that 82% of military goods contracted in 2025 were domestically produced,
82%.
up from 46% the year before. That shows they are actively, desperately trying to detach themselves from reliance on delayed aid. They are building a fortress economy.
That is huge, but we have to look at the other side. Russia. We know they are producing a massive amount of stuff. The numbers are scary, 4.5 million shells a year.
That's the estimate for Russia plus North Korean imports. 4.5 million. It is a terrifying number on paper, but when you dig into the sources, you start to see the cracks. It's what we call quality fade.
Quality phase, so they're cutting corners.
Drastically. Russia is running short on high-quality explosives, so they've shifted to using something called TA-20. It's a cheaper filler, a mix of TNT and aluminum powder.
Aluminum powder.
Yeah, it's a bulking agent. It adds an incendiary effect, but it lacks brisance. Brisance is the shattering power of an explosion. If you want to kill infantry in a trench, you need high brisance. TA-20 explodes, yes, but it doesn't have the same lethal snap.
So they're firing more, but each shell is actually less lethal.
Correct. And then you have the North Korean factor. The reports on their ammo are, well, they're alarming if you're a Russian artilleryman. The propellant is chemically inconsistent.
And that leads to what?
Catastrophic barrel bursts.
Meaning the gun blows up in your face?
It destroys the howitzer and kills the crew. And because their accuracy is lower, they have to adopt what we call a supply hog strategy. To destroy a 300 by 300 meter grid, they have to fire 20 shells where a NATO gun might need 3.
So the volume is high, but the waste is just incredible.
Precisely. They are trading efficiency for mass.
Okay, let's unpack this chemical bottleneck we touched on. We keep saying Russia is short on explosives, but why is the West struggling to ramp up? I mean, what is actually holding us back?
It comes down to basic chemistry, specifically nitrocellulose, or gun cotton.
Gun cotton. So we're really talking about cotton.
It sounds archaic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But modern gunpowder relies on nitrocellulose, which is made from cotton fibers. And here is the scandal hidden in the supply chain. Killer cotton.
This is the part that reads like a thriller.
It really does. Russia's gunpowder plants, Tambov, Kazan, they desperately need this cotton pulp. They can't grow it, so they import it. And the sources identify a key figure, Rustem Muminov.
The British Uzbek tycoon.
That's the one. He's a dual national. His companies reportedly control 85% of Uzbekistan's cotton pulp exports to Russia. We're talking about $170 million worth since the invasion began.
And the irony is that some of this flows through our allies.
It does. Often this trade flows through intermediaries in Turkey, a NATO member, or even touches Western financial markets.
Unbelievable.
So Russia is using this to fuel the missiles striking Ukraine. Meanwhile, Europe is struggling because it relies on China for 70% of its cotton linters.
Why are we so dependent?
Because we offshored the dirty industry decades ago. Making nitrocellulose involves nasty acids. It's environmentally dirty. The West shut those plants down. Now, to restart them takes years. BAE Systems in the UK is trying to innovate around it, develop a new propellant, but that's still scaling up.
It's frustrating. But it also highlights why Ukraine is doing what it's doing going independent. Let's talk about this industrial renaissance.
Right. One of the standout examples is a company called Firepoint. They realized relying on imported engines for their long-range drones was a vulnerability. So they localized.
Started building them in-house.
97% of the components. They're casting their own pistons, milling their own parts, and the cost reduction is insane. They dropped the price of mufflers from €400 to €70.
Wow.
And they're churning out engines for 200 long-range drones per day. That is strategic autonomy. But doing this in Ukraine right now is incredibly dangerous. They are being hunted with guided glide bombs.
So where do you hide a factory in the age of spy drones?
You go down, Ukraine is building underground manufacturing complexes.
Yeah.
They're literally burying their industrial base to keep it running, and the government is finally catching up. In late 2025, they licensed 30 military-developed techs to private manufacturers to scale up immediately.
That's the Defense City regime, right? Launched just last month.
Yes. Defense City is a special economic zone for the arms industry. Tax breaks, removed export barriers, all designed to attract foreign firms.
Is it working?
It seems to be. You have a drone interceptor company, Skyfall. That's the first resident. But the big news is Rheinmetall, the German giant.
What are they doing?
They're building a plant in Ukraine, a capacity for 300,000 shells a year by 2027.
That's significant.
It is. Though I have to mention Rheinmetall's CEO did note that bureaucracy in Ukraine is still very, very high. So while the intent is there, the friction hasn't completely vanished.
Old habits die hard. So, putting this all together, it's this intense industrial war in the shadows.
It's a dual front war. On one side, you have the Russian reality, massive volume, crude mass, North Korean imports, simplified explosives. It's a 20th century strategy.
And on the other side.
You have Ukraine's asymmetric response, domestic reduction at €2,500 a shell, digital tools like Krybiva, underground factories, and a private sector that is innovating faster than the state can keep up.
It really feels like the West is trying to restart the factories of the Cold War, while Ukraine is inventing the defense industry of the 21st century out of pure necessity.
That is a profound way to put it. And it raises a provocative thought for everyone listening.
What's that?
Everyone is worried about donor fatigue. Can the West keep giving? But look at the trajectory. Ukraine doesn't just want to hold the line. They are becoming the security hub of Europe. If the West can help fix the cotton bottleneck and bridge the funding gap and need about $27 billion for 2026, we might see a shift where Ukraine ends up exporting security to Europe rather than just importing aid from it.
They're battle testing the technology that NATO will be using in 10 years.
Exactly. The laboratory of modern war is open, and Ukraine is running the experiments.
A thought to mull over.
Right.
Well, we are going to be watching that $27 billion figure very closely. This has been an incredible breakdown.
Always a pleasure. The industrial front is where this will be decided.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
That's right. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.